Focusing too much on yourself can be bad for your mental health, like really bad. I'm not talking about self-absorption in the form of adoration. I'm talking about a negative self-focus. Hi, I'm Lacey. I work as a mental health counselor, but I'm also just a human. So I kind of experienced this firsthand. Part of my responsibility as a counselor is to work on whatever issues come up, because in this occupation, stuff inevitably will come up. So being the extremist that I am, I also took personal growth to the extreme. Not only did I work on things that surfaced, but I also kind of made it my mission to look for things to work on, because somewhere I got it in my head that my ability to be a good counselor was directly dependent on whether I had resolved my issues or not. That thought process, of course, is unrealistic, but nonetheless, I spent many years focused on all my weaknesses, all the things that I thought stood in the way of being a good counselor. I was actually in supervision at the time, but I noticed that my mental health was beginning to suffer. I would go to work and give 110%, but internally I was struggling. It reached a point where it felt like I was kind of drowning in problems. And I spoke with a mentor, an older, wiser counselor, and they kind of pointed out that most people who feel compelled to enter the counseling profession usually have kind of personality traits, dispositions, characteristics that kind of make them a good fit to be a counselor. And they also said that working on yourself, of course, was a good thing for personal growth, but that looking for problems would only lead to more problems. You may have heard me say that, and you may have also heard it, that whatever you're looking for, you will find. So after talking to them, I thought, for the love of goodness, that is exactly what's happening. I am drowning in problems. It feels like there's no end to them. I looked at some of the research too, and there are studies that back this up. I'll put the references in the description. One study says that overall self-focus was associated with negative affect. Another study says the elaboration of weaknesses is hampering our subjective well-being. There's other studies that say similar things. So when you focus exclusively on your weaknesses, you are not able to see the positive traits that you innately have. For a lot of us, we also have distorted thinking, but thankfully, part of the journey a lot of times is finding out that you are mistaken in your thinking. So after speaking to my mentor and experiencing the pain of having a negative self-focus, nowadays I choose to work on whatever comes up, but I do not go looking for things. I see this in clients too. Clients will come in and they will view themselves as a problem to be fixed. Usually they're completely ignoring the parts about themselves that are innately valuable. So why do some of us focus more on the negative than the positive? Focusing on the negative, of course, it could be a survival mechanism. Some of us are more predisposed to thinking negatively or having a negative focus. It could be partly conditioning. This negative self-focus is also referred to as a negativity bias. What is a negativity bias? It is when we habitually focus on what's wrong with us or what we perceive as a weakness or something bad. One study said it was the cognitive tendency to prioritize negative stimuli. So for someone who has a negativity bias, if something happens, you are more likely to assign a negative meaning to it. If you pass someone you know and you try to wave to them and they don't wave back or they don't acknowledge you, you might say, they must not like me. I must have done something wrong. It is very rare that you assign a positive meaning when something happens. One study reported that this negativity bias is usually automatic, and that those who kind of have a more of a negative bias, their brains are wired to kind of focus on the negative. The good news is we know now that you can rewire your brain, and one way to do that, of course, is cognitive behavioral therapy. This study also said that CBT and mindfulness are good interventions to use. So what do? When it comes to personal growth and working on yourself, self-reflection, of course, is needed. It's important to be able to improve, but a constant reflecting on all your weaknesses, your problems, does not necessarily improve things. It can actually have the opposite effect. If something comes up, reflect on it. Maybe work to accept that this is something that's coming up. Journal about it. Talk to a trusted friend or family member. Of course, get counseling if you need to, so that you can process what's happening and maybe find potential solutions to whatever problem that's come up. So that's you taking responsibility for it. But then you can go back to living your life until another problem shows up, because it will. Another thing you can do is start to become more in touch with those parts about you that are naturally positive and valuable. And mindfulness might be helpful here. All of us have natural gifts, talents, things about us that make us valuable. And I can tell you till I'm blue in the face that you have value, but it won't feel true unless you discover it. And it may feel uncomfortable at first when you start to get in touch with those parts of yourself. One way that I have done that is to go back in time. We all have a data bank, right? We all have memories and things that have happened in the past. And for those of us who kind of have more of a negative focus, we might have had positive feedback, positive interactions with others. It could be anything. It could be a look of approval, but all of those things in the moment we probably dismissed. If you can go back in your data bank, go back in time and find some of those memories where someone was praising you for something, giving you positive feedback, or a look of approval. Maybe you find one moment and you start there. You can close your eyes and put yourself back in that moment. And instead of dismissing whatever feedback you were getting, sit with it. Because sitting with this positive feedback can sometimes feel uncomfortable, just as uncomfortable as something negative that has happened. And you could also try and see what the other person was seeing in that moment. So what was it that you were doing that kind of seemed beneficial to them or of value? And really it's just about connecting with you in that moment. Doing this exercise, it may take a few times for you to get more comfortable with those moments where you received positive feedback, but it will get easier, and you will just be building more and more evidence, and in the process training your brain. And the last thing is more of a cognitive behavioral focus, and it's to challenge your negative narrative. One of the things that kind of blew me away when I became a counselor was that most of our thinking is distorted, and we are at the mercy of our thoughts because we never question them. So question your thoughts and challenge your narrative, because it's most likely distorted or untrue. So the steps to doing that is, first, you have to become aware of what you're telling yourself. Then you kind of really have to ask yourself, is this true? And you might look for evidence against the thought. So an example is, if I make a mistake, I must be a failure. Not necessarily. We make mistakes all the time, and it doesn't make you a failure. So a truer statement would be, just because I made a mistake doesn't mean I'm a failure. And really, the way that I think of failure nowadays is that it doesn't seem really like failure, because anytime you make a mistake, you're really gaining kind of a lot from those moments. And if you're gaining a lot, how could that be a failure? I think the thing that throws us off is it's uncomfortable to make mistakes, and it's uncomfortable to become aware of things that we weren't aware of before. With a little effort and determination, it is possible. But again, it's always up to you. Just to finish up, having a negative self-focus is not good for your mental health. Personal growth is great. Wanting to grow as a person is a good thing, and being able to self-reflect. But a constant focus on what you think is a problem or a weakness kind of only leads to more problems and weaknesses. So take a break sometimes. Do your reflecting, your journaling, talking to somebody, processing what's coming up, but then maybe leave it at that and go back to living your life until something else surfaces. If you are someone that has a negativity bias, you are not limited. You do not have to stay focused on the negative, but it will take some effort to retrain your brain and be able to shift your focus. It's definitely possible. I hope this video was helpful. Thank you for watching.